Hey everyone, welcome back to the BDFY Club. And for those of you who are new, I'd like to give you a warm welcome, as I'm sure about 30% of you have never been here before. Anyhow, I'd like to welcome our very special guest, who is not only a pro basketball player, as she is also capable of being an inspiration for the younger generation. So we are very lucky to have Camille Clarin with us today. Hi, Camille. Welcome to the BDFY. We know for a fact that you came back from the FIBA Asia Women's Cup division, and I'd just like to congratulate you and your team for winning the last game. And due to that, I'm pretty sure we're still in Division A, right?
Yes.
That's good for us. So how has your quarantine been so far?
Well, I've actually quarantined for so long already. It's been almost 8 days, I think, but this is not my first go around at quarantine. I quarantine like all the time. So I'm kind of used to it, but it still sucks. I honestly feel more sore just laying in bed for 8 days straight than I do for playing 5 games in a row. Like, it's hard.
Yeah, what are your plans after, you leave this whole quarantine situation? Because I'm pretty sure you'll leave very soon, right?
Yeah. Go to see my boyfriend and my dog Zeus. My
Yes.
family currently lives in Canada, so for now I'm staying with my boyfriend, and that's where I've been staying with him and his family for majority of quarantine. Um, yeah, so I'll see them first, eat some good food. That's all I'm looking forward to, just getting some rest before we have to start preparing again.
Again, yes. And lastly, what's next for Camille Claire? Are you looking forward to any training, or are you just gonna kind of chill for now?
For now, they've been talking about tournaments that we have that are upcoming, but so far, I think we're just gonna start training maybe like 2 times a week in November, but then have a serious training camp in January because we're supposed to have another tournament in February, and then we have SEA Games in May, and then hopefully, if my college resumes, we'll have a season in September.
Oh, okay. Well, good luck to all of that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question. Since your passion is kind of basketball, I wanted to know, how did your love for basketball start and grow? Who inspires you other than your dad?
I actually did not like basketball. I started I swam, I played volleyball, I figure skated. I was actually a figure skater for like about 4 or 5 years, but I got burned out super quickly. But for those of you who are Filipino or who know Filipinos, like basketball is in your blood. So I was always in the community. My sister played and my dad played, so I was always forced to go to the games, go to their practices. So eventually, once you're around something long enough, you kind of also start enjoying it. So it was kind of like that. I was brought into the community, and then I ended up liking it as well.
If that's the case, then what were you like when you were much younger?
I feel like honestly, I would say the same if you ask any of my friends, because moving around a lot, you don't always keep the same group of friends. But I stayed with my elementary school friends until now, so about 10 years of friendship. So they can definitely say that I'm still like the same person. Always love sports, always like low-key a nerd. Like I really do enjoy school, and I definitely focused a lot on school during my entire career. Like I didn't focus as much on basketball. I just let basketball give me the opportunities to like study abroad and stuff like that. um so yeah, I would say I was definitely outgoing as a kid just because I played sports and I hung out with the guys a lot. I was just pretty easygoing, yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, I would say you're very successful because you're doing what you love. And so, is there an expectation that you live by?
No, I think that's the best way to go about things. Don't have expectations. Just, sometimes a lot of people fall into the habit of setting these big, long goals for themselves, and then eventually, once they reach it, they don't even feel happy at the end of it. So for me, like not setting expectations, but kind of enjoying the process, letting things happen, well, just enjoying the process and letting whatever happens happens. Work for what you want, yeah. But if you expect too much, sometimes you end up not being happy with the result, and it takes away from the joy of everything you've been through.
Since you brought up about goals, for those students or for those people who are not sure about what they want to do in the future despite their age, what advice would you give them?
Well, when I speak like this, I feel like I'm speaking like I'm like in my in my adult years, but guys, I'm only 20. I still don't know what I want to do, and you guys are definitely younger, but really like what you like is what you like. Don't let anybody tell you different, because eventually if you keep just listening to everything around you, not yourself, you're going to fall into the habit of just pleasing everybody, and you're really just not going to enjoy whatever you set your mind to. I think the hardest part of everything is just like societal pressures, pressure from like your family, your friends. But honestly, like once you find it within yourself to kind of just say, I want what I want, like this is my life, like I get to decide what I'm going to do with it, then that's really the goal. Like, just being at peace with yourself and at peace with what decisions you make. I think that's the best goal you can set for yourself, really.
And for your support system, like for me and probably for the rest, I think it's very important. So do you have any support system, or can you name like at least 3?
Yeah, I have a great support system actually. So for background info, because I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know who I am, I left to go to high school in the US when I was 14 or 15. So I haven't been living with like my parents, only like summers and winters, since for like the last 6 years basically. But for a lot of people, that's like, oh my God, like how did you do that? But really, I loved it. I think I was really independent ever since. So I think it was a great opportunity for me to kind of like find myself and do whatever I really wanted, and kind of explore and make those mistakes for myself. But yeah, through that I realized I found my support system because I was so far away. It was obviously my family. I have a little brother and an older sister, and then I had 2 parents. They were definitely so supportive. It's not easy, like I don't know if there's any parents here, but it's not easy letting your kid go at like 15 years old, go off and wander in another country, right? So I think I'm definitely thankful for them for letting me go at that age. And yeah, now I have a great support system of my boyfriend. He's definitely super, super supportive throughout my whole journey. Like, as much as when I came here to the Philippines, I was already kind of confident in myself, he definitely helped so much in terms of like building my confidence and like kind of standing up to whatever stereotypes they have here in the Philippines. He was always super helpful in terms of that. Other support systems, that group of friends that I mentioned. So another more background info. From grades 5 to 8, I was in like a special program for elementary school. So I ended up staying with the same 25 or so kids for 4 years. So we ended up getting really close. So yeah, they're the only people I really see actually when I go back home to Canada. So I'll say those 3. I do have friends like all over the world, just because when you go to boarding school, you meet so many people from different countries. But yeah, definitely those 3 are my biggest ones.
Okay, so what would
Sorry.
you no, sorry. What would you say is the best part about being a basketball player or even like a student athlete?
The best part for me is just meeting new people and like where the game takes you. Like I've been able to play in the US, in so many different countries, Malaysia, Mongolia. Where did I just play? Jordan. I'm on Jordan, yeah. I've traveled to so many countries just because of basketball and the people I've met. A lot of my teammates that I've joined from team to team, they've become my friends for life. And I think that's the great thing about sports. It's such a great community, and you can connect on such a like low level. Like as long as you play the sport, you can have friends there. And I think the sports community is just such a great thing, and it's definitely something that has changed my life for sure.
Okay, yes. To add on to that, I think you were the one who actually gave us the concept of perseverance. So, if you don't mind me asking, what is perseverance to you?
Well, it's going through those obstacles no matter what. I think in your sports career, especially for me, I had I was very injury prone. And one of like the most important like times of my recruiting process, I actually tore my ACL. So that was when I was your age, like sophomores. I tore my ACL, and then my recovery process was super, super difficult. Usually it's around 6 to 9 months, but mine was like almost a year plus. So that was definitely difficult. I've encountered a lot of teammates who actually just didn't continue rehab, kind of gave up because the process was so difficult. And that's not saying anything to their character, but for me, I think I definitely had to persevere through things like that just because basketball meant so much to me and there was so much time and effort that not only me, but my family has put into it. So I think just persevering through like whatever's ahead of us. I think if you have a goal set in mind for yourself and you feel like there's a purpose bigger to the sport, I think it's easy to persevere through things like that.
So since you kind of talked about like going through hardships, so if you don't mind answering, like what mistakes have you learned along your journey, like since you're just 20, and what have you learned out of it?
Oh man, I'm going deep here, guys. Mistakes. I think it's just yeah. I think it's for me the biggest mistake was probably just like maybe trusting people too fast. I mean, that may not be in the basketball side, more of the relationship side for any of you guys who know. Trust the red flags, that stuff. But like in life, really, I think it was just if it's not everything is good in the end. So if it's not good, it's not the end. I think a lot of us at our young age, we kind of feel like if we hit like rock bottom, like, oh my God, like I'm never going to be able to recover, stuff like that. I think that's a lot more prominent in our generation versus like my parents' generation, especially when I talk to things about that. Like, I know mental health is super big in our generation. And I think that a lot of times we get down on ourselves just because, yeah, there's so much outside noise, there's so much pressure. But I think like you really just have to keep believing in yourself. I think it's easy to lose that belief and kind of lose that confidence, but I think just as you can, like, self-love, all that stuff, like believe in yourself because at the end of the day, that's all you got, no matter what anyone else says. Like, it's you and yourself at the end of the day. So I think just take that time to build that relationship with yourself. I think that's very important in anything in life, really.
So you've mentioned about building this relationship with yourself and having like self-confidence and everything. And as an athlete and a public figure, we all have like our own haters and bashers and everything. So do you receive hate and criticism? If so, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, like, okay, let me check. So on my Instagram, I'll read you guys like one of the comments that was on my recent post. Okay, let's see. So you guys just get like get background. So let's see. In terms of hate comments, yeah, there's like a bunch of random people. That's why like I'm glad that I responded to you because I never look at my message requests because actually like the vets on our team, they say like, guys, don't watch the live streams, don't go on the Facebook posts because there are really awful comments about all of us there, like grown people. Just I don't know what they want to do, but they really just put all of their hate out there. And I know it obviously sucks, but here it's like someone's like, you should be saying pardon your bad shooting percentage, something like that, right? And I'm like I'm confident in myself. I know it was my first time playing, like I'm good with everything like that, but really like it took a while. Like it's I know so many people who receive hate on the daily. Like luckily for me, it's only when I play. But yeah, it's really just all about like building that self-confidence and kind of like once you're okay with yourself. Like I wasn't always this positive. It's really hard. Like I won't even lie. There's sometimes when you're just like, oh, like these people suck. Like maybe they're right, But I think it's really just a process of kind of like pushing those people out. You have your space, protect it, don't let those people get into it, because once you do, that's when it gets hard. You guys, if you're like me and if you're like my teammates, you know how much time and effort you've put into these tournaments, 2-a-day practices, leaving your family for weeks. Like once you realize all the sacrifices and time you've put into it, comments like that obviously hurt, you know? It's like you don't see what I go through. You don't see the effort that I put into, you know, representing this country. And I think it's good to just also have that support system to lean on because realistically you can't do it on your own. I can say all this stuff about self-confidence, but if there's no one there to also help you when you're like at that low point, then it's really difficult. So find your tribe, find your people who can support you when you're not feeling your best because that's a big help for sure.
Yeah, wow, that was well said. And as a person like me who like looks up to you, I would also like to know what's like the reason behind your jersey number 21? Like, is there a person you look up to? It's not like 21's like your birthday or anything, but
No.
why did you choose 21?
So my favorite basketball player is Ray Allen. He's number 20. So when I was younger, I always wanted to try and get number 20, but someone always took it. So I just ended up settling for the number above, 21, so I could be, you know, that 1% better. And then, yeah, I just stuck from there.
Mm. And for me, I was wondering, like, what was some misconception that you have heard before from people about the sports industry?
In the sports industry or like in terms of women versus men's sports?
It can be anything. I don't mind.
Okay. So that's what I like to talk about, like the inequality versus women and male sports. So coming from Canada and the US, the support is great. They don't recognize gender or stuff like that. Like if you're talented, you'll get supported. If you're talented, you'll get support, you'll get money, all that stuff, you know? But here in the Philippines, I don't know how it is in Thailand, but here in the Philippines, the gender gap is really what decides if you get money, if you get support. And that was such a huge change for me. It was like my team, they're 6 years undefeated. So 90, I want to say 96 games. They haven't lost for 6 years. And in our championship game, we had maybe 20 people in a stadium that's supposed to fill like 10,000 people. We didn't have confetti. We didn't have anybody bring out a ladder for us to cut the nets. We actually just piggybacked on each other for us to cut the nets because nobody would bring out a ladder for us. It's just like little things like that. Like we didn't have any budget to train. We had to set up a bubble 2 to 3 weeks before one of the biggest tournaments after 2 years, whereas the men's program has had, I want to say 5 separate bubbles before one tournament. And it's just stuff like that. Like, it's a big difference. Obviously, I get that there's more investors and there's more supporters on the men's side, but I think there is definitely progress because people are starting to take the chance on women's sports here in the Philippines, especially after all the success in the Olympics. I had an interview the other day and we were talking about how the Filipinas are really bringing up the country right now. In a country that's like dominated by stereotypes in terms of genders, it's great to see that like the Filipinas are winning and being successful in non-traditional sports. So sports that are meant for men. So weightlifting, boxing, basketball. When you think of boxing, obviously you think of Manny Pacquiao, right? But the first woman, I think she won silver, and then obviously weightlifting first gold. I mean, it's great to see that, you know, despite all the barriers that these women face day in and day out, they're still succeeding. And I think that goes to show, yeah, that women persevere despite everything that, you know, everything that's in front of them. And I think it's great to see that people are starting to give us a chance. People are starting to cover us on social media, but definitely a long way to go.
So about like making big decisions, how were you able to come up with your plans of flying across the world to chase your dreams, of course, representing the Philippines, the Philippines national team? So like knowing that you'll have to leave your family, like your mom, dad, and everyone, especially at times like these, like during COVID, during this pandemic. So what pushed you to commit such a big decision, knowing that you also haven't played like basketball in 2 years, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. It was my family, honestly. Like I was the one who had second thoughts and I was like, am I really gonna do this, guys? Like when I'm in Canada, everything's open. There's a gym for me to go to. There's a trainer that can help me out. But if I go to the Philippines, nothing's sure. I could go there and the bubble could get canceled or it could get delayed, which it did. And stuff like that. It was like there was so many factors that went into it that most of them weren't even confirmed. But the bottom line was that like it was my dream to represent the country. Like I came in 2019, I came to the Philippines not because I wanted to play college ball there, but because I wanted to represent the national team. So after like all the spiraling about COVID, traveling, quarantine, like it came to my senses like this is what I've been waiting for. And even if it came at the worst time possible, when I was in my worst shape, when I really wasn't mentally prepared to play basketball, like I was still gonna take the opportunity because you never know, especially during COVID, when I'd be able to play basketball again. So I think yeah, it was just the opportunity was there. It would just be rude of me not to take it, honestly. They trusted me, like they gave me the opportunity for a reason. So I think yeah, I just felt that responsibility. And when it's for the country, you can't say no.
Yeah, I agree to that. What are your like top 5 priorities of the month?
Like that changed because of the pandemic?
Yeah, like maybe like you realize that, oh, I don't really need this person during the pandemic. All I need is, I don't know, Sean or someone. Yeah.
Definitely spending time and keeping in touch. That's definitely like the biggest thing. Like obviously we've been taken away from like all of our like daily things, like whether that was sports, school, like face-to-face classes, stuff like that. Um, Once you take that away, like you're really just left with the people around you, the people in your home. And I think it was definitely great for me, especially because I haven't been able to kind of be in one place for such a long time. So I think it helped me appreciate like all my support systems, all the people in my life, just because they're always there. And sometimes in the world that we live in pre-pandemic, we kind of forget about those things. I think it was a good reminder during the pandemic. Um, what else? Priorities. Just staying in shape, mental health wise, not physically. I think I can speak for a lot of us, it was definitely a drag, the pandemic. I don't know how much more how much more progression you guys have made versus us, but we still don't have face-to-face classes. They have no plan to bring it back anytime soon. We're still in lockdown right now, so not mostly everything is closed. And I think that's what's hard, like just kind of keeping a positive mindset through it all. But I think eventually it'll be for the better. Yeah, like really those are only my priorities that I've kind of realized, like just spend more time with the people around you because they're always there for you, but you may not always be there for them.
Okay, so on that note, what's the toughest part about being an athlete slash student athlete, and what's the hardest decision you have ever had to make in terms of being an athlete, if you don't mind answering?
Yeah, definitely time. That's obviously the biggest struggle when you talk to any athlete. It's time management. You sacrifice a lot of things, sacrifice a lot of parties, a lot of time with friends, just because like you're dedicated to your sport. And I think that's what separates obviously the athletes that stay in their sport versus the athletes that only do it through high school or something, which obviously that's their choice. That's fine with me. Like, I think for me, it was just sport was super important to me. So it came with those sacrifices, but I'm totally happy. No regrets or anything. Um, so yeah, managing your time, kind of prioritizing what gets your effort, what doesn't. That's definitely the biggest part of being an athlete. The hardest decision, I think, to just keep playing after my ACL. It was a very, very long process. Like I wasn't the same for at least 2 years. They always say that you're not the same after you tear your ACL because it's such a obviously big part of your body and the recovery is so difficult. But I think it was just I didn't expect that my progress would be that delayed, like 6 to 7 plus months compared to the regular. So I think it was really difficult. Like with all the complications of my surgery, I was like, is it really worth it? Like even till now, like it doesn't feel like completely the same. But you work around it. And I think I'm definitely glad that I decided to, keep going because I had the opportunity to just, leave it all and just be like, okay, it's done. But glad I didn't for sure.
Is there a specific tournament or game that you remember, or it's just significant to you?
Yeah, high school. When I was in my senior year, it was our championship for Maples, which is the Mid-Atlantic Prep League. So in New Jersey, a bunch of the boarding schools have like a league, and they're not that good, but like our team is definitely above the rest. But it was such a great feeling. Like I was a senior, I had my best game ever. My parents came to surprise me, and I broke the school record for like how many three-pointers made in a game. So I hit 11 three-pointers in one game. And regardless of who we were competing against, I was like, that was amazing. And I feel like it's just moments like that where like, wow, like, I can really do great things sometimes. Maybe not always, but sometimes. And I think all of us kind of need that confidence booster every now and then. And to just do it in front of my parents, I think that was definitely the cherry on top.
Another question in relation to what Ati asked you, was there like a specific game, like when you represented like Gilas Filipinas, is there like a like the most memorable one to you?
Yeah, 3x3 Asia Cup in Malaysia. It was our final game against China, and this was the bronze medal game. So we had actually played China, I want to say 3 times already. So we played them once in the World Cup, they destroyed us. Played them again in Asia Cup. So in the qualifying rounds, because they were in our bracket, we played them once, and we were so close because their team wasn't as good as the World Cup one, but we knew some of their players already, but we just couldn't pull through. And then eventually, once the tournament came over, we ended up crossing paths again for that bronze. So I think to beat them, like to get a medal too, it was such a great feeling. Like there were so many Filipinos actually in the stands who came and watched us. So it was like the whole country was behind us, even though it was just a bleacher full of people. It was so great. And I did it with all the rookies that I played with here in this tournament. So it was such a fun feeling for sure.
I'd
Okay.
also like to add that that happened like a few years ago, but like I watched it recently, and even though it already took place, I could still feel like the intensity. I was like, "Whoa, we won!"
Yeah. Like you don't forget like feelings like that, and I think it's so great that I have that experience, to look back on.
Okay, so what would you say is the biggest risk you've ever taken other than continuing to play basketball?
Moving to the Philippines, for sure. It was actually not my plan A or plan B. It was like the lowest possible plan I could have had, but it was there. Because my recruiting process got so messed up, the goals, the dreams that I had intended for myself after high school did not go to plan at all. Like I didn't have the offers that I wanted. And that was definitely that was a very difficult process to kind of go through. I had settled already on like a school in New York. Obviously in the back of my mind I knew I didn't like it. Like it was just like, okay, I'll just go, whatever. Like, this is all I have, so I might as well take it. And then like last minute swoop in, like I went to the Philippines to play in these tournaments, and then I ended up talking with the coaches here, and they offered me a spot, and I was like, at first I didn't want to. Again, it was my parents. I think my parents low-key guided a lot of my decisions. They just don't want to admit it. um I was so set on New York, and then they were just like, why don't you just try it out for 1 year? You can't lose anything. Like, school is free. You get to play with the national team. And I was like, you know what? Sure. Why not? Like, for me, essentially, it was like the equivalent to taking a gap year. For, I don't know if you guys know what that is, but yeah, like the year that you take in between like high school and college, like if you haven't been decided yet. So I was like, okay, might as well try it. And look where I am now. I'm still here, haven't turned back on my decision. So I think, yeah, that was definitely the biggest risk, but it was a great payout at the end.
I feel like your answer could really answer like the next question I'll ask you, but what is that one decision that you've made in your life that you'd feel like is the most life-changing?
Leaving home, because I think that trickle, it was like a domino effect of everything I ever achieved. Like leaving home, and that decision to kind of step out of my comfort zone and step out of everything I knew, all the people I knew. I think that was by far the best decision, the biggest change that I've had to go through. Um, yeah, it was like imagine like you guys 2 years ago, like just leaving home, going to school. Like I don't know, maybe some of you guys have actually done it already, but it was a great feeling. You know, you get put into new environments, face new challenges, but it's really just you. You can only depend on yourself, and I think that really helped with like my maturity and everything in my process, and it made a lot of stuff easier down the line. So I think yeah, that was the best one, biggest, best, whatever, all of it, all of the above.
I have a question. I think this might help like certain students. Do you think it's ever too late to do something that you're passionate about? And if you couldn't find what your passion is, do you think it's all right?
It's never too late. Oh my God, especially if you guys are like freaking what, like 16, 17 years old. No, you can talk to anybody, even people who are in their like 60s and 70s. Like there really is no better time to find your passion and pursue your passion, because if it's something you're passionate about, time is not a factor. Like I think a lot of people fall into that hole where, especially now, like you see like 20-year-olds, like millionaires, billionaires making all this money, and you're like, oh my God, like what am I doing? Like, you know, like you feel like you don't have a path. But if you're passionate about something, pursue it with 100%. Like that's all I can really say, because eventually, like if you pursue something you're like half about and you don't succeed, then you're definitely like down in the dumps, because you're like, oh, I took a chance on something I don't even care about that much and I still failed. But if you go into something that you care about 100%, and maybe the turnout isn't as good as you expected, at least, you know, like in yourself, like I tried, like, you know, this is good enough. Like at least I tried it. I know what I can do moving forward. And, you know, just hop back on and try something else. If you haven't found your passion, that's okay. Not a lot of people do right away. That's not something to be ashamed about or nervous about. Like sometimes the things you've been searching for so long come at a time when you stop searching. Like when you really need it, I feel like the things that are meant for you will come.
And I remember Bianca asking about like one thing that you would change about your life. When you make a bold decision, do you receive someone looking down on you?
If I make a bold decision, no.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's always just like, go for it, you know? And I think that's what's great. Because they're supporting me, and it's because it's me making this the decision. If anything happens, it's on me. Like if it fails, it's on me. And I think that's the best way around things. Like I don't like letting people decide for me, because then if something doesn't go right, then I want to blame them, you know? So I think taking that responsibility to make those decisions for myself, I think that's definitely a great path, and definitely something you guys should try, like especially now that you have all those opportunities and so many different paths ahead of you. Just try and make that one bold decision, because you never know, like it could really change your life for the better.
Okay, so for my question, from interviews, I heard that you also excel well in school. So what are some tips for us students to do the same and get high GPAs and all, while also, doing things that you love?
Prioritize your time as much as you want. Don't procrastinate. So what I do is, as soon as I get something, I do it like as soon as I can. Because if you have time now, do it now. Because you're just gonna regret later on when it's like two days away from the deadline, and then you just start now, and then it's like everything's crashing. I feel like we actually have a lot of time, but we don't, you know, time it out right. As students, they want to say, "Oh, I'm so tired. I have this, and that," but really, just look at your time, look at your deadlines, set up a system for yourself that works, because you have the time and you have all the resources. A lot of us are so blessed, to be able to do things like this, to be able to have Zoom calls, all that stuff, Google Meets. And I think like the resources are there. A big thing for me is also reaching out. I know there are a bunch of teachers here. Reach out to your teachers. They're your teachers. They're there for a reason. They committed to helping you, teaching you, and all that stuff. And I think a lot of us are scared to reach out, but a lot of them want to help. They're just waiting for you. So I think living on campus and like having relationships with teachers just because you're kind of forced to. I think that was great for me, because I could definitely rely on them, ask them for any advice. So yeah, I think it was great to be able to focus on one thing, carry it out, and then continue on with sports, with whatever I wanted. You know, get that weight off your shoulders as a student. Just don't procrastinate. That's the best advice.
Another question I have is, what was the hardest like circumstance you had to face during COVID, other than making that bold decision of flying to the Philippines and representing the country and everything?
Biggest decision. I think what was difficult was when like a bunch of people in Sean's family, so my boyfriend's family, got COVID. There's like 9 of us in the house. 4 of them got COVID, 5 of us didn't. So we were really lucky. And I think it was really scary. Like it put everything into perspective. Like luckily none of them had any bad symptoms afterwards, but like there's a lot of people I know who like passed away from COVID and stuff like that. So it really put everything into perspective. And honestly, just being in the Philippines during COVID has been the most difficult part, because I've been able to see what COVID's like in Canada versus here. Canada wasn't that great, but now everything's open, everything's functioning like normal. And to know that I have to be in a place where everything is good, but also everything is so, so bad, I think that was definitely the biggest sacrifice for sure.
If you could do if you could restart your journey as a basketball player, what would you do differently?
Nothing. I think if I would have done anything differently, like I could have gone down a path like, I mean, maybe not playing that game where I knew I was gonna tear my ACL like that. That's the only thing I could ever think of. But realistically, like I don't like to look at my journey, because even my dad asked me that question actually when I went back home. He was like, "Do you regret anything that happened in your journey?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "My journey is my journey." I was like, "I'm so happy with where I'm at and everything that I've accomplished despite whatever I've gone through." So I think that's a beautiful thing. Like if I can look back at what I've done and say I had no regrets, I think that's great.
Okay, so for my question is, what are some of your advice for people who are not able to compete in doing the things they love, even though they've been practicing it for a while, or if they've been like rejected to maybe like a dream school? Like, what would your advice be for those people?
Keep pushing on. It's literally never the end, even if you think it is, even if you get shot down by your dream school. I did. Even if you don't make the team, I did it. Like I've gone through all that stuff already, you know? And as much as you think it's the worst possible thing that could ever happen, it really isn't. Like, especially for how young all of you guys are. Whether that's in school or in sports. I think just believing in yourself that you can still go, and, you know, trusting in yourself that, you know, maybe if you look at your mistakes, like it's a lesson. Every loss is a lesson. And I think that it's important. It's a good way to kind of better yourself, but also like a good time to reflect. You know, take a step away from everything and then throw yourself back into it right away. Because if it's something you're passionate about, you should never give up on it.
What would your advice be for the younger athletes or students who don't have the same kind of support system as you do? Because I know for a fact that your support system is just great, like almost wherever you are in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if it's in sports, you're gonna find a community of people with that's your teammates, that's your coaches. I think the biggest thing you can do is build a tribe within those communities that you know would support you, because a lot of times there's people right beside you. They're your teammates who are going through the exact same thing, you know, and maybe it just takes you reaching out to them to be like, like I'm not alone in this battle, you know. I think it's great that when you're on a team or when you're in team sports, you get thrown into a community of so many people, whether you like it or not. And a lot of times those people are on your side and they want to support you. So whether that's coming from your home or not, if it's from your school, from your team, I definitely believe that there's people who want to support you and who will help you. So you just have to make an effort and, kind of try and look out for those people, ask around, just take a step forward and, put your best foot out there just to try and see who could help you.
UAP is actually like one of my favorite things to watch. So if you guys don't know, it's like a really big like league, right? Like in the Philippines where big universities compete and there's like lots and lots of people who watch it. So first off, I want to congratulate you and your team for your 96-0 streak and for
Thank you.
winning and being champions. So it's absolutely crazy how you guys work so hard and put in so much effort and time and dedication to have that like what do you call that factor of being like winners and champions. What are your thoughts with the fact that you like National University doesn't have the same kind of support system as like women who play volleyball and men who play basketball, just because you guys are women playing basketball?
Yeah, well, bottom line, it sucks, and I've done as much as I can. That's taking every interview possible, talking to all the people I've had to just to get our names out there. Yeah, it sucks. To put into perspective, our men's team is the worst on the men's side, and our women's team is the best on the women's side. But the men get way, way more support, as in full stadiums, people waiting after their games, everything. I don't know why. Honestly, I do know why. It's because in the Philippines, we're very like gender stereotype based. So if it fits the traditional, woman looking pretty, all that stuff, like that's women's volleyball because it's a female dominated sport. And if you look at the men's side of volleyball, they're kind of in the same hole that we're in. They don't get that much support. And it's really just about changing that stigma here in the Philippines. A lot of times it's about how we look. They're like, oh, they don't want to watch players if they have short boy hair and they're wearing long shorts. Like we want to watch girls with long hair who look pretty and who are wearing short shorts. Like it's sports. Like the whole reason behind sports is you're watching the talent behind it, not the looks of the people on the court. And I think that's a stigma that has to change. It's obviously easier said than done. We have a support system personally, like NU, but nothing's going to change until it becomes nationwide, until it becomes league-wide. So yeah, it's a process. It's super difficult, honestly. But I think like with the progress that the team has made on the national side, I think slowly but surely we're getting more and more support. So hopefully that translates to UAAP.
Yes. Do you have like goals and dreams for the younger generation who plan to play in leagues such as UAP or like leagues in other parts of the world? Because I know that there are a few leagues who don't have as much supporters and opportunities compared to like other countries, like such as like States and Canada and everything.
Yeah, for the next generation, I've been talking to people already like about it, like players who are like in their late 20s, 30s, like who didn't have half the opportunities I had. And I'm talking to them about what I can do for the next generation. So it's a great support system, honestly. But I think my dreams for them are definitely just to have way more opportunities than I had. I had so many because I was in another country, but for them to be in the Philippines, I just hope that, they have camps, they have access to gyms, access to tryouts, access to watching girls like us, girls like me and my teammates, because it's hard to want to be someone and look up to someone if you can't see who they are, So us putting ourselves in the spotlight, I think has definitely helped the sport and helped them be like, oh, like if they can do it, I can do it. So I think just getting them that access, giving them a support system whenever they need it, holding camps, grassroots programs, all that stuff. There's a lot of dreams that I have for the next generation, but it's up to us to kind of push it forward. So we're doing everything we can, and hopefully it works out in our favor.
Okay, so what is the biggest factor that has helped you become so successful?
My support system, positive mindset, and yeah, like my determination. Also passion. There's a lot that goes into it. There's not just one formula that I can say that made me the person I am today, but I think support system carried me through every point I wanted to give up for sure. Um, yeah, that's really definitely the biggest one, honestly. And then determination. When I set myself, like when I set my mind to something I want to achieve, like I go all out, and I think that's definitely one of the traits in myself that I admire most because I feel like that's what helped me get to a lot of the places I wanted to. Like I didn't want to just stay home and go the traditional route. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go down the path not taken by many people. And I think it paid off, determination. I was passionate when I was passionate about basketball ever since I was younger, once I actually started liking it. Um, I think it never went away. And I think even when I got injured and I wanted to give up, like as soon as I touched the court and felt the basketball again, like the passion was still there. Same with the pandemic, even after 2 years. Once I stepped on the court, everything felt good again, everything felt right. So yeah, those things.
What advice would you give the students who does not have much self-confidence?
This is a really difficult question, honestly, because I've encountered a lot of girls, like even family, friends, and stuff who've asked me this question. And I think it's really just if you put in the work and if you believe in what you do, like the confidence will come. Like you just have to believe in yourself to a point where what other people say doesn't affect that. And that's really difficult. Like self-confidence isn't something that comes up like when you're at your age. Like I definitely wasn't that self-confident at your age. Like it's a process, and it really is just believing in yourself. Like because if you believe in yourself, there's not a lot that can put you down. Like, and if you have people who also support that belief in you, like the possibilities are endless. Like self-confidence is a super difficult thing, especially once again, like societal pressures, social media, so difficult to be like, I want to be this, I want to be that. I'm not enough because these people have this, these people look like that. Um, so really just having that, yeah, positive mindset, that belief, those are the biggest things I can really say.
Okay, so for my last question, it's gonna be, is there anything you hope that the younger or future generation will bring to society?
Um, I think yeah, the passion and their willingness to make change. Passion in their beliefs and the willingness to do something about it. I think we are seeing a lot of that in our generation now versus the generation before us, and I think it's only going to build up. And I think that willingness to do something about the things we believe in, like I see it in myself, I see it in the people I'm around, and I think that's definitely what I'm so excited for, and I hope the next generation continues because if no one's willing to do anything about it, nothing's going to change. So until we kind of create that culture, I think once we create that culture, everything's, smooth sailing from there. As smooth as it can be, because obviously change still has to happen, right? But if we're kickstarting it, especially as the younger generation, great things could happen.
And my last question for you, in 5 years, where does Camille Clarin see herself?
In 5 years, man, national team for sure, and then hopefully playing pro, maybe overseas. I think that's something I thought about every now and then, but like that, I'm not too confident in my abilities to play overseas yet. So I think that's something I'm definitely going to work towards because in 5 years, you never know.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry, do you know fast talk, right?
Yeah.
I have like 5 questions, probably take 30 seconds. So, okay, question number
Okay.
1. Who's your favorite NBA player?
Current, like in the league or not in the league?
In the league, if that's
Klay Thompson.
favorite WNBA player.
Ali Quigley.
Favorite food, because I know you like love food.
Sushi.
Philippines or Canada?
Canada.
Food or basketball?
Food.
Wow. Would you want to start a YouTube channel one day?
No.
Okay.
I always thought about it, but I don't have the patience nor the time. Like I could not see myself like recording. Like trust me, I've tried. Like try and record and see and like edit. I can't.
Fill in the blanks. I'm Camille Clarin and I blank and blank.
I'm Camille Clarin. And oh wow. I'm Camille Clarin and I love to eat food. There.
Okay.
Didn't have to be that deep.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Camille? This is like anyone can ask her questions. Teachers, Miss Tori, do you have questions for her?
Not in particular in my mind right now. I'm just happy that she's here and that she's able to give you guys some feedback as well as being in university and at your age. Like you say that you don't have, that you're young and you're still figuring it out, but you've given them so much more than you even know already. And that's just really cool to be so young and to be able to give feedback like this to students, because I know that it's even better getting more advice and more things from someone like you versus someone that's older, and it kind of looks bad. Like we should like look to elders and these people as giving us better advice, but sometimes you need someone who's only a few years older than you, that you guys are like only a few steps behind her, right? And so seeing how inspired you guys are by her life so far is just so cool, like what you guys can accomplish in the next 4 or 5 years as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think Mr. William has a question too.
Thank you, Bianca, for asking me if I had a question. First of all, you ladies are doing a great job asking questions, and Camille, thank you for coming. You're doing a great job. You have a lot of wisdom. I know you keep saying to them, well, you guys are younger. I'm sort of saying to you, you're younger, but you have a lot of wisdom. So, honestly, it's been great. But one thing I wanted to do that sort of touched on a lot of what you said is the idea, this idea of passion. We see it in sports movie. We always see these people that are so driven. We rarely, if ever, see moments of doubt or really low times in people's lives. So sometimes we have a false idea of things, not just like the photoshopping thing and all sort of stuff, but we're all human beings. So to what degree do you feel down? In other words, how often are you experiencing moments of doubt and you don't feel your passion in that moment? Does it happen a lot, a little bit? Because I think we all sort of, again, we feel down when we feel down and think that we've somehow failed temporarily. So enlighten us there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's a great question. I think definitely our lives that we put out there are kind of like just the highlight reels, and you don't really see the down moments that we all go through. But for me, often, like when I look back at my journey, the things that I feel like I've achieved were only after I felt like the biggest doubt, the biggest loss. Obviously, with my injury, that was definitely the most doubt that I faced towards my career. Even going here to the Philippines, there was a lot of doubt going into it, just self-doubt, because I felt like personally, like this wasn't what I had planned for myself. And I was like doubting, like, did I do enough? Like, that's why, like I mentioned earlier, that was kind of like the biggest decision that I had to make going to the Philippines, because it was not a decision that I wanted. It was more of like a decision, like, this was all I got. Like, this is another chance to kind of take a risk and like, let's see if it pays off. So I think as athletes, especially, we're always faced with doubt, like kind of holding up those expectations. Like I preach about like my team being 96-0, but there's a very high level of expectation that comes with it, especially as someone who comes from overseas versus someone who's recruited, in the Philippines. Um, Now that all of our seniors are gone, there's a lot of doubt going into this current season because we haven't played together for over 2 years. So it's kind of up to me, like someone with more experience, to kind of gel that team together. So, yep, right there, huge doubt bubble. But I think once you're passionate about once you're passionate about something, like eventually it'll overcome the doubt. It takes a while. Sometimes it feels like it'll take forever, but like I said, if it's everything is okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. I think that's something I definitely live by. So, yeah.
Camille, can I ask one more clarifying question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because again, we have a lot of ladies here, and obviously Bianca loves you, and she's a big fangirl and stuff. And I think you've gained a lot of fans from the people who've attended today. So, if you could quantify your experience, say if things are going well inside of a month, things are going well, when are those times that you kind of is it 1 out of 10 days you feel a bit down? Is it like does it happen often? Does your passion sustain you?
Definitely during the pandemic, a lot more often, like maybe like 1 in 10 days. I think that's pretty accurate. Like once every 2 weeks, I'll say something like that. When I was like pre-pandemic, like I feel like I was just so busy, so consumed with everything going on in my life. With that was sports, school. Like I feel like I had no time to rest and think about things. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but I think during the pandemic, I was able to kind of like strengthen that self-confidence I had because despite going through all of those times of self-doubt, I was able to say like, yeah, I'll pick myself up. I may not be all together at once, but eventually like I'll work towards it. Like not every day is a good day for sure. There was so many times where I was like, why am I working out if I'm not going to play for another year? Why am I staying in shape? I was like, why am I joining these team meetings? I was like, the end is nowhere in sight, but I think that's up to you to be like, this is my life, this is my decisions. Whatever is going on outside is not going to decide what I want for myself. And I think it's just that, you kind of have to look deep inside yourself and say, if I'm passionate about this, if I want it, I'm going to do whatever I can to achieve it. So, yeah. Thank you. I want to say thank you to all of you guys. Oh my God. I don't think I would have ever been able to do this at your age, like to ask all those questions and like have follow-up questions to all those questions. Like kudos to you guys. Like as much as you guys look up to me, like I look up to you guys for doing something like this. Like thank you so much for the opportunity. Like I do all the traditional interviews and stuff, but like it's so much better to talk to kids like near my age. Like, way better to see all the insights that you guys have and all the questions and see you guys curious to be better people. It's so great to see. Thank you.